Dislike.
Dislike?
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else in the group?
People in the chat are saying dislike,
Dislike, okay.
definitely dislike, dislike.
Yeah. Okay, so next question. Why do you guys feel that realtors dislike wholesalers?
Reginald says because they're competition.
So do realtors dislike all other realtors?
Mhm.
Or competition?
Because some of them are wholesalers themselves. Nate Mott says. Alicia Hardy says they're taking away their business.
Okay, so mostly related around competition, right?
And they think it's illegal. That's true. They do, even though it's
Yeah.
not.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. So
Oh, Judith.
I'm also a broker. I'm a realtor broker as well, and I could tell you that most realtors don't understand what a wholesaler does. In fact, I haven't met one that knows what it is or understands it. Most of the times I get these, I'm kind of getting immune to them now, but I get these, realtors trying to get you with this gotcha call, what are you doing? What are you doing? That type of thing. And, it takes a little while to manage that response properly, but it's stemmed from a lack of understanding on their part. So it's a combination of lack of knowledge and a few bad apples in the wholesale community that set a bad expectation for others. So from a realtor's perspective, and if you think about it from like the National, Association of Realtors, I would say that most realtors don't have an issue with competition, okay? Because competition is good for the consumer, number one, and they already compete with a lot of other realtors. There's a ton of realtors in Wake County and Durham County, so I don't know if it's a good argument to say that they dislike all other realtors that are competition. What I think is, it's like I was saying, I think it's more lack of knowledge. And I think it's a few bad apples that maybe spoil it or make a bad reputation. Realtors have to put a lot of time, effort, and money into earning their license and their designation. If you ever talk to a brand new realtor right out of real estate class, I mean, they're spewing like legal facts and things about, disposition of property, like all the stuff that's not really relevant to actual selling real estate. But the whole program is conditioned realtors to be by the book, and it should be by the book. It's a very it's a regulated industry. You have to take a lot of ethics courses related to it. So realtors are held to a high standard. Does anyone know what standards wholesalers are held to? None. There's no standards. So in a way, a wholesaler, although you're not actually brokering property, if you're doing an assignment, you're assigning a contract, you're not brokering real estate. That's different, and that's an important distinction. But realtors look at wholesalers and they say, hey, you know what, there may be cutting through, they're shortcutting it. And I've got that impression from realtors before. And I think the way that you combat that is you act and portray yourself and actually be a professional. You communicate professionally. Most of the times when I work with a realtor that is maybe skeptical at first, after conversation, everything is fine. They really just want to make sure that there's going to be a proper professional transaction and that they're going to get paid and nothing shady is going on. That's what they care about, right? So as long as you can help illustrate to them that you're going to do that, you can have great partnerships with realtors. And I have got a lot of deals from realtors last year that I personally closed on and flipped. I actually kept a few of them, rental properties for myself, that came from realtors because they knew I was buying real estate. And I did a wholesale on one of them. I kept one of them. So they're an important part of your relationship. So a responsible wholesaler follows through on promises, over communicates with all parties. Communication is really important. I don't care what kind of sales you're in. This is a people business. You got to talk to people. Most people do not understand a real estate transaction. So if you don't understand it now, that's okay. Learn it up, get yourself educated, be able to explain a real estate transaction from A to Z to your grandma, okay? Because your grandma probably hasn't bought or sold a home in a long time. Be able to explain it to her. If you can do that clearly, you'll be fine. That's a good rule of thumb. Professional wholesaler, dresses like a professional, communicates like one, not afraid to reset expectations with unreasonable sellers. Has anyone ever ran into something like that? Whether it was in real estate or something else where you were in a sales related scenario and the other party had a very unreasonable expectation about what you were supposed to do?
Yes.
Yeah.
People, Reginald says yes.
Yeah. And, you know, to me, that's a form of conflict, and you have to have good conflict resolution skills. So whether it's right or wrong, I think the most important thing to do, it's kind of like in a negotiation. If you're trying to sell something for $10 and somebody offers you $1, how do you think it makes that buyer feel if you respond saying, well, let me think about it, versus if you just say, I'm sorry, your offer is way off. I appreciate it, but I can't consider that. You know, you got to reset the tone right up front. And especially these days with as hot as the real estate market is, sometimes you get these sellers that have a dump of a property that thinks that they can get, you know, 80% of ARV for it. You have to reset expectations. You have to do it professionally and courteously, but you also have to be confident about it, right? Professional wholesaler serves all parties so that everyone gets what they want. And they make sure that a complicated process is clear and easy for everyone. That's very important. Transparent wholesaler clearly explains what parties are doing and proactively checks in for understanding and clarity throughout the process. You know, for better or for worse, a lot of the clients that, you know, for better or for worse isn't the right phrase, but a lot of the clients I worked with last year, sellers, were, I would say they were a little bit on the older side. And a lot of these folks, they haven't done a real estate transaction in a while. And it's important, and they appreciate it if you go out of your way to check in with them, call them out of the blue, say, hey, I just want to give you a little update with what's going on. They want to hear from you. They want to hear from you. And you want to make sure you clearly explain what you're doing. So, you know, for me personally, when I go to look at a property, when I walk in the door, I don't know what I'm going to do with it right up front. I don't know if I want to fix it and flip it myself or rent it out, or if I'm going to wholesale it. So I just tell people, what I would potentially do. And if I go under contract, I write that on the paper for them so they know. So, you know, it puts in writing what I said. And a lot of times if people don't understand what wholesale is, I tell them that I'm going to sell their contract for a profit, for my profit. It takes all the gray area out of the equation. And that's really what, you know, maybe where things can get sticky sometimes is about the money. And if I'm planning on doing a wholesale, or I come to decision that I'm going to wholesale it, I just tell people that I'm going to sell it. This is how my business makes money. I said, I can help you. And this is what I'm planning on doing. 99% of the time, people are totally fine with it, because a lot of times they don't want to go the traditional market route. You know, they're reaching out to you, or you got in touch with them maybe because they have a situation that's non-traditional. Okay, so don't be afraid to be confident about what you're doing. Okay, the less sense of secrecy there is, the better you're going to be as a business operator. Okay. Creating your brand and reputation. Why do some wholesalers get a bad reputation? Let's see. Kind of skipped ahead here a little bit. Sorry about that. We talked about the realtors. How about reputation and brand identity, mission statement? Somebody put in the chat box, what would you say your personal brand identity or mission statement is? If you're at the point where you're actually like, you know, have a business plan and you're doing something in real estate, or you're thinking about it and you're thinking, hey, who do I want to be? What do I want my company to represent? Throw that in the chat box for me.
What's the question, Mike?
Yeah, I think there was like 5 questions layered in there. The question is, has anyone thought about what their brand identity should be, or what their mission statement should be for themselves or their company?
Alicia Hardy says the mission is to help people in difficult situations.
Yeah, it's a great one.
Anyone else? Nope, they're being shy tonight, Mike.
Yeah, that's okay. It's all right. That's the fail with like these Zoom meetings, you know. If it was in person, I could just call on people, you know what I mean?
Kanika says provide safe, quality, and affordable housing.
Yep, okay. Got a little buy hold investor there.
Yeah.
Yep. So I think those are great. I think it's important to think about what you want that to be, right? Make sure before you actually start doing business, you identify what your goals are. Who are you going to be as a professional, you know, real estate investor? What's your business purpose? Okay, I think it's important because it does help to guide, keep some guiding beacons and guiding principles within you that you can stay true to. And on that note, I want to talk a little bit about reputation. So I see this happen all the time. And this is not just in real estate, but I would say more often than not, when a situation arises in business and someone is presented with a choice between profit today and potential reputational risk, or you know, do a transaction versus manager versus maybe taking a little less and promoting the relationship. I see oftentimes people lean toward money, transaction, and I understand. I could understand why people end up in that predicament, because same with realtors. A lot of realtors, you know, they scrape deal to deal. When I was selling new construction, I would see all the time, you know, we get to closing and the realtor would be like waiting at the attorney's office to get the check. You probably see that all the time, Kathy, I would imagine, right?
You don't even want to hear my diatribe on that.
It's a tough gig, because that realtor, you know, if I feel bad for that realtor, because that, you know, or whatever the business situation is, because they must need that money so bad that, you know, they need it so bad, they probably haven't even factored and taken out taxes yet. And it's a difficult spot to be in. But what happens is a lot of times, I don't want to, maybe not a lot of times, but oftentimes what happens is you get put in a situation. I promise you, you will be put in a situation in this business where you have an opportunity to make more money and maybe sacrifice or compromise, is a better term, on your either reputation or your ethics or something along those lines. And it's not if, it's when you get in that situation, this is when your reputation is defined. This is when it's defined. It's very important. You should always choose relationships and reputation over money. It's never worth it. It's never, ever worth it. When I first started, I'll tell you a quick story. When I first started selling new construction, this is a fun story. I was 22 years old. This was in 2005, and I was selling new construction homes down in Naples, Florida. I was selling at like a semi-luxury type of community, big master plan community. And, you know, I had just got off, you know, the corporate rotation, making like 35 grand a year or something like that. And now I was in sales and in production. And because the market was so hot, the builder that I worked for built all of these spec homes. I mean, there was 50 homes in the ground ready for move-in. And if that, basically what that means is that is tens of millions of dollars in the ground, not monetized, waiting to be sold. It's very significant. It's a big deal for a builder, put it that way. So when I first started selling, they raised our commissions. These were like $400,000 or $500,000 homes. They raised our commissions to like 1 3/4 or 2%, and they were giving us $10,000 bonuses on all these sales. And I sold like 4 homes right out of the gate. And I'm like, this is like Monopoly. This is crazy. I couldn't believe how crazy it was. I was 22. I didn't have any money. And I had just made like 40 grand that month. Like, it was insane. And what ended up happening was, like, it was my first couple of months, I got put in one of those situations where I made the wrong choice. I chose money over reputation. And I made a little bit more money on that deal. Instead of making like 7 grand, I made 10 grand or something minor. But oh my gosh, did I pay for that for the next year? I had to build up my reputation and the trust with my peers in the office. It was a really painful lesson but I'm thankful I learned it early in my career. And I give you that advice. Don't make the mistake that I did. I never made it again. And again, talking about reputation, just put a couple notes here. Be the expert, figure out ways to add value, offer services for free. Here's what I mean by that: offer services for free. So I've got a couple. Last year, I did a few deals with an investor that I sold some properties to, or in Rocky Mountain, or these were in Wilson, and this investor was out of state. And they called me. I call them. It's a customer. You got to call them after the sale, follow-up service. Call them, check in. And they were running into an issue. I offered to go over on their behalf, go talk to the tenant, help them get connected. It took 4 or 5 hours of my time to run around and do all this, but it was worth it. That investor was so grateful. I built loyalty. I built my reputation. These are things that make a big difference. And lastly, deliver solid deals and quality content, because that's really what it boils down to. In general, a rule that I try to keep in place, I'd encourage you to try and follow something similar, or something in line with what your principles are. But I will try to I do not put something under contract that I don't feel comfortable closing on myself. A lot of times, how many of you guys have seen someone post a deal on Tria, or on some Facebook group or something, for 100 grand, and then you see it's on Zillow for like 90 grand or something silly like that? I just want to call the guy and say, well, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're trying to fool somebody? Are you crazy?
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Mike, so Mario Brown is asking for you to provide an example, your opinion of a sound brand identity and mission statement in wholesale.
Yeah. So for me personally, mine is, it's actually a little bit spelled out in these bullet points here, but mine is, I want to serve customers, deliver. That's where I came up: solid deals, quality content. Serve customers, offer solid deals and quality content, and make a profit.
That's a good one.
And profit's not a bad word. You should talk. It's okay to talk about profit. A lot of people don't like to talk about it. It's good to talk about it, because we don't work for free. Yeah, it's not a charity. You either have money, time, or expertise. You got to have one of the three,
So Alicia's asking, what is a way to add value?
Well, adding value could be the example I just shared with you about offering services for free, going over to the house in that situation. Adding value could be, okay, so maybe they'll talk about it on two sides. For the seller side, a lot of times people moving and transitioning a home is a very stressful experience. What things can you do as a business and for your customer to help them feel more stress-free and at ease? If you're working, so here's a good example. I haven't done this, but I heard someone else do it. I was like, man, that's pretty cool. They offered to give a $500, credit toward moving labor, a nice little perk like that.
So basically, you're figuring out what problem your seller has, and you're figuring out how to help them solve it.
Yeah. I mean, all sales is problem solving. It's really what it boils down to. But I think maybe if you were looking for a simple rule to follow, I think that's a good way to put it. What's the hot button for the customer? What problem or stressor do they have, and how can you alleviate that? Right. Think about somebody that's alleviated stress in your life. Are you grateful to them? I mean, I am. It's a big win. And so that's maybe more with the seller. From the investor standpoint, you will work, if you're going to be in wholesale for a while, you're going to work with investors that are brand new, that you need to hold their hand through the whole process, and you're going to work with experienced investors, and you got to be able to talk and manage those. I mean, that's a wide spectrum of experience. And for the new investor, help them with their rehab, help them understand cost managing. If you're going to be focusing on a certain geographical area, make relationships with property managers, contractors, attorneys, because when your people come to you and say, hey, I'm interested in your deal, but I don't have any. This happens to me 5 times a week. Hey, do you have any good property managers in this area? Yeah, I got you. That's adding value right there. Okay. Any other questions related to that in the chat?
Not right now.
Okay. And I kind of summed it up at the bottom there. Your reputation is worth more than any commission. Talk a little bit about contract to close, managing the experience. So meeting your prospect, first impressions, breaking the ice, using humor to build rapport. Don't talk, listen, ask questions, touring the home, flowing with the situation. So here's what I'd say. When you maybe put a yes in the chat box, and Kathy, give me a count if you have gone on a seller appointment or a buy appointment yet. Have you met with somebody interested in selling? Just get a feel for the group.
We got one, let's see, 1, 2 yeses, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 no's, 1 only over the phone, 7 no's.
Okay.
8 no's, more no, just only a couple yeses.
Yeah, so maybe 10, 20% on the yes, something like that. Okay. So when you go on your first appointment, it can be kind of nerve-wracking. You know, you kind of feel like you might be faking it a little bit until you make it. You know what I mean? It can be a little bit. It can be you feel a little anxious. Put it that way. Here's a really easy way. I'm going to give you a super easy sales. This is almost like cheesy sales 101 tip on how to help break the ice with a customer. One of my first sales trainers told me this. He said he had a real Southern accent. He said, Mike, you got to use Ford. And I said, what's Ford? He said, it's family, occupation, recreation, dreams, right? You could talk those 4 topics for 4 hours with anybody. Just pick one and start off with that. So if small talk and getting comfortable with getting somebody comfortable with you, that's really what it boils down to, is building trust, building rapport, and gaining comfort level. If the small talk and getting there is hard, that's a really easy acronym you can use to incorporate.
What was the R, Mike?
Recreation. What do you do for fun? Ford. So kind of cheesy, but when I was new in sales, I used it all the time, you know, and get comfortable practicing. You know, if you haven't done this before, spend time role playing at your house. When I first started sales, before I started selling in 2005, when the company hired me, I was on a 9-month training program. I did role play every day for 3 hours. It was torture, but I will tell you, at the end of it, I was sharp. I was ready to hit the floor. I was ready to talk to customers. I knew my stuff. And it's just like anything else. You can't be great or be good at anything and go halfway with your practice. So take the time to think through different situations. Talk to customers in your mind. Stand in the mirror and rehearse how you want to say it, even if it feels canned at first. If you never heard the term can to plan, you could start out what feels canned to you, but as you get comfortable, it'll transition to a planned presentation. You'll feel more confident. You can deviate from your course. So I'd encourage you guys to really practice with that. The highlight for meeting your prospect is you're building rapport and you're gaining trust and you're gaining confidence. That is your goal. How you get there is going to depend on your personality. Okay. Understanding the home and the numbers. So talk a little bit about construction knowledge and rehab costs, creating a scope of work and a budget, understanding the risks and pitfalls, and would you do the deal? So this is a big gap in wholesaler knowledge in general, in my opinion. Here's a question for the group. Type one of these 3 responses in. do you think it's harder to be a fix and flipper, a buy and holder, or a wholesaler?
One for wholesaler, fix and flip, wholesale, flip, 3 and 3, buy and hold, wholesale, fix and flip, 4 and 4, buy
Okay.
and hold, 2 buy and
Cool.
holds.
Yeah, good mix.
Yeah, wholesale and flip are tied, and very few buy and hold is.
So I'm going to make an argument. I'm sure, we could debate this, but I'm going to argue that being a wholesaler requires more knowledge and experience than being a fixer and flipper or a buy and holder. And that's because when you buy a property and let's say you're going to burr the property and you're going to fix it and rent it, or then you're going to fix it and sell it. It's really, you can have, at that point, in theory, you could have a contractor, you could pay the premium for a contractor with experience that's going to manage the whole process. You essentially are the funder, right? You can be the funder. As a wholesaler, you can have contractor relationships, but this is a tight labor market. It's hard to get contractors to go out and bid for you to get a scope of work from an actual contractor, because you're going to wholesale the deal. It's not a guarantee for them. You might be able to find somebody that would be willing to do that. And if you do, that's great. But on one token, you want to be sensitive to their time. And on the other token, like I said, it's a very tight, this labor market's very tight right now. Contractors, I see them walk off jobs for better jobs all the time. Happens all the time. So I think that being a wholesaler is actually more difficult because you have to have experience and knowledge across the board. And this construction part of it is probably the area that has the most gap, I would say. So if you don't know or understand construction yet, get linked up with a mentor and study it, learn about it. It's important to understand how things work and what things cost. It's very, very valuable, especially when you're talking to the investor that you want to assign the deal to. Right. So we met the prospect. We understand the home and the numbers. Okay. So we know we have a deal in place. We're going to now going to make the offer and sign the deal. Presenting with confidence, the power of providing options and signing the paperwork. So when I personally meet with the seller, I try to give an alternative choice. So I try to give 2 different offers, both that I'm comfortable with, but maybe try to cater one offer, one offer that might work better for the seller, and another one that might be a little less favorable for the seller, but they would get something in exchange for it, and let them choose. People like to choose. People like options. So that's one valuable thing. It doesn't always work out perfectly, but I have had a couple times where I've had somebody say, you know what, I'm going to go with number 2, and I'm like, oh, okay, great. Let's do that. And I think providing options is valuable to people. But I think when you make your offer, presenting with confidence is a very important piece of it. And confidence only comes from mastery. You could be a confident person in general, but if it's something that you don't work in or understand or talk about regularly, you're not going to be confident in it. And that's okay. That's normal. So the way you get confident in it is you master it. Confidence comes from mastery. So if you are nervous about presenting your offer, make sure you fully understand what your offer is, why you're offering it, how the numbers, how you arrived at your offer, and be able to explain it clearly and concisely, and make it a dialogue. This is a very common mistake with anybody in sales, is they try to hard close, and you never hard close. Give options to people and let them choose. You're there to be a guide and to serve them, not to close them on anything. That's a very important difference. So you got the deal under contract now, and now we're trying to market it and work with the end investor. So first question, you guys throw this in the chat room. What do buy hold investors look for? What kind of buzzwords do you hear them using?
MAO, cash flow,
Rent
Yep.
ready.
Rent ready, returns. And how about for fix and flip investors? What do you guys,
return
what
on
do you think they're
investment.
looking for?
Okay, profit. These are still your first.
Spread.
MAO again, ARV.
ARV.
ARV,
Spread. What's the renovation budget?
repair cost.
Another one with rentals would be buy hold investors. Some of them talk about cap rate. Here's about your
Building
cap.
equity.
Yeah, so those are all, these are important terms. Investors, experienced investors, they use this. This is regular terminology, so get comfortable with it, and make sure you understand how each one is arrived at. This is important when I put here. Are you talking to another wholesaler that's pretending? This drives me nuts. I probably have this like once a month or maybe twice a month. I'll get somebody call me interested in one of my deals, and they'll say they're interested in buying. I can kind of tell, it's one of these deals. It'll be a package of property for $200,000, and they'll call me and I'll say, this is Mike. How can I help you? Hey, I'm interested in. Oh no, it starts out like this. Hey, what's up, dog? I'm interested in that 200K 10 pack. Well, would you take 120? I mean, no, I wouldn't take 120. And what are you doing here, buddy? This stuff happens all the time. Important thing to ask is, are you the wholesaler or are you an end buyer, right? And when it comes, and one other way you can weed out pretend buyers, wholesalers that are trying to act like not being transparent with what they're doing, is you can require an EMD, earnest money deposit. Kathy touched on this a little bit earlier. A lot of times on contracts, you'll see wholesalers require a non-refundable deposit, which is just crazy because, like I'm doing a deal probably in the next week or two that's going to have a $5,000 EMD. But if the title doesn't come back clear, it's not right for me to keep that money. That's not right. Plus, I'd probably get sued. It'd be a bad situation. So I just say it's an EMD, and it's for my situation, my agreement, I always just say it's contingent on clear title. I said, but there's no inspection contingencies or anything like that. So before you make your offer, let's hash through everything you got to hash through. Okay. What to do if another wholesaler contacts your seller. I've had this happen before. I actually started prepping my buyers, or excuse me, my sellers, in case somebody reaches out to them. There's a lot of people that will do shady things. Qualify your end investor before tying up your contract. So, this would be the case of if you were selling your personal residence and I said I wanted to buy it, you would want to know I was qualified to buy your house. Well, how do you have qualification? You either get cash verification, which is a bank statement or a letter from your bank saying that I got the money, or number two is a pre-approval or some type of loan approval that says, hey, Mike's good for this. We're going to loan the money and he's going to come up with the other 20% and you prove it. Make sure your guys or gal, whoever's buying your property, your deal, has the money to buy it. Okay. And then skin in the game. We talked about EMD. DD stands for due diligence. We won't get into that now.
So Bianca's asking how you prep your sellers about other wholesalers that might come along.
Sure. Bianca, great question. So I'll pretend you're the seller. How about that? The seller. Bianca, so there's a lot of other companies around town and in the general area that do what I do. You can expect great service from me. I'm going to follow through and do exactly what I told you I'm going to do. Some of these folks, some of these other companies will sometimes reach out to you and might look to try and negotiate a deal and exclude me from it. I just wanted to prep you from that. Usually it's a pretty immoral, unscrupulous thing to do. But if you get a call like that, I just didn't want you to be surprised. If it happens, just give me a call with the person's phone number. I'll reach out to him and I'll take care of it. Okay. Last thing here, I'm going to talk about coordinating with all parties to ensure a smooth transaction. So working with an experienced attorney is very important, especially in the field of real estate investment. Most attorneys, I will tell you, there's a lot that don't They don't even know what wholesale is. Most attorneys have the same level of knowledge of wholesale that realtors have of wholesale. There's not many of them. And don't rely on the attorney to oversee the transaction. That's your job. Their job is to close the transaction. Your job is to oversee it. Make sure everyone's happy at the end. If you can, at the end of the deal, if you can look everyone in the eye and shake hands with them, then you know you did a good job. Make sure you have regular communication, and then anticipating issues and solving them before they arise. This is an interesting one. This is going to only come with experience, but like, you know, here's a very quick example. I know I'm running a little over on time here. If you wholesale for a full year, you will do a deal on an inherited property, and an inherited property, depending on when the deceased passed, is going to have all kinds of things that could be going on with the estate and all. I mean, you know, Kathy, I'm sure you deal with this all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And you will learn what questions are important to ask and find out on the front end. You know, oftentimes if the heir says that they inherited the property, but the person passed away last week, they don't have title to that property. They probably can't sell it yet at that point, at least probably not. But if it was a few years ago, he might be more in the clear. So you'll ask, so like this is important when you're trying to think about how to anticipate issues and make sure that you aren't missetting an expectation, or that you're trying to solve a problem before it comes up. That's a
Okay,
wrap.
Alicia's asking how you work with someone with an IRS tax lien. And by the way, Linda says you're the bomb.
Oh, thank you. IRS tax lien. I think I did have somebody with some type of like, maybe it was a federal judgment or some. Oh, you know what? I did. They had some type of a federal judgment. I don't know. They owed someone very important a lot of money in the government or something like that. You know, really it boils down to, can the lien be cleared up and how much is it? You know, if they've got the money to pay it off, if there's enough, you know, meat on the bone in the deal that they're going to get out of it to pay off their lien, great. If not, you probably don't have a deal then.
Now, I'll tell you this, if you are going to do a rehab, and it's not our topic tonight, so I'm not going to take up a lot of time with this, a lien like that offers the opportunity for creativity. For example, you can make a deal with your seller that you will pay that tax lien off when you sell the property. So
Love
that frees up your money to do the deal. In fact, in the first TRIA rehab class, we had a $70,000 IRS lien. And we
Wow.
never paid it until we sold it. So we had all that $70,000 that we didn't have to use our cash.
How did you take title in that? Was it a sub 2 deal or?
We took title, but we put the money in escrow. So we knew if worse comes to worse, if the IRS did anything, we could have paid the whole thing.
Yeah, you got it ready to go. That's sweet. Very cool. Awesome.
Other questions, guys? How much time, this is Reginald, how much time do you generally spend daily or weekly on wholesaling?
You know what, it's right now it's a little less because I have like 5 flip projects going on, or 5 rehabs going on. Last year was more. I did a lot more wholesale last year. It really just depends on what deals are in your pipeline. So like, I'm not 100% wholesale. If I was 100% wholesale, it'd be all my time. But I would say maybe right now it's maybe 25%. Last year was probably 75%.
Oh, nice. All right, there's no other questions right now, so that was awesome. Oh wait, sorry, someone came in. Bianca and Sheila, I'm going to save your questions because you're both in the wholesale class, and we're going to hang out a little longer. So for everyone else, we're going to say goodbye and thank you so much for being here. And if you are in the prep wholesale class, hang out for just a few minutes. Everyone else, have a great night. It was a great
Night, everybody.
Thanks for being here, and we hope to see you. What's the next meeting, Les?
Well, experienced investors is Friday. Otherwise, we'll see you on the Zoom for the main meeting next Tuesday.
Yeah, main meeting. That's right. Don't miss that one.
Don't miss that one. Thanks, guys. Everybody
Bye,
have a good one.
everyone.
See you guys.
All right. Wholesale class. This is probably just going to take just a minute while we everybody's leaving here. Okay, we have Bianca, Chris, Donna, Eric, Judy, Kanika, Keisha, Nate, Reginald, Sheila. Yay, that's us. That's Mike, we have 20 people in our class. Two
Cool.
at the Wilmington meeting tonight, and looks like we have 3, 6, 10 here. So we have half the class here. So guys, I had a couple things I wanted to ask him to start out with, and then I'm just, since we're a small group now, I'm gonna make it so you can unmute. So I don't think we need to worry about too much background noise. It's just if you have background noise.
Hey, Kathy, I'm gonna step away. I'm just gonna use the restroom. I'll be right back.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure. Let's see. Let's try to figure out how to change this setting here anyways. Oh, here we go. Okay, so you all can unmute now. It's if you have background noise, just like in our class meeting, just shut it off. But otherwise, you're free to unmute. And when Mike comes back, it looks like Judith. Oh, you asked, does he live in Rocky Mount? No, he lives in Southwest Raleigh. I think he just ended up, getting some deals in Rocky Mount, and then that's just where he gets a lot of deals. Like I said, he was telling us before the meeting that he now has 2 deals down in around Lee and Moore County in Cameron and yeah, what am I trying to say?
Something.
Carthage. Jesus, my brain's dead. Okay, so that.
Okay, you don't need me. I can get off.
Yeah. Thanks, Les. See ya.
Okay. See
Okay.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, I'm back.
All right, so I had a couple questions to start with. One, do you this, by the way, class, this goes to the question of other wholesalers. Do you ever record memorandums of your contract?
I haven't done that. I wouldn't be opposed to doing it. To be honest, I just don't know the ins and outs of it. I've heard of people doing that, but I haven't done it, to answer your question.
I like to use it judiciously. You like if you think you might have a problem with a particular seller. But then on the other hand, it plays in with what you said. Sometimes it's better to walk away from a deal than to force
It
something.
really
If
is.
they're going to be unethical or rather deal with someone else, you might rather just walk away.
I will tell you, there's been a couple over the last 12 to 18 months where I'll tell you a real quick one right now. And this really rubbed me the wrong way. I was mad about this for like 2 weeks. But I had a nice deal on the table. It was maybe a 15 to 18K spread. I mean, it was a healthy spread on it. And I had built this relationship. I had sold, done a deal with this seller on 3 other properties. And these were the next 3, his last 3.
Wow.
And yeah, and he, I mean, we went out to lunch. We weren't friends, but like we definitely had a good relationship. And we were on the way to close, and the day before closing, or right around the time of the title search, I find out that the property's transferred like 4 days ago. So I called the guy and I said, his name was Mike. I said, Mike, did you just sell these properties? I said, what's going on? He said, oh yeah. He played like he didn't know. And I just said, you know what? I'm very disappointed in you. That's not a way to treat people. But if you felt like you had to do that, you do what you got to do, Didn't burn a bridge, told him I was disappointed, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Yeah, but I think it goes back to what Mike was saying earlier, is sometimes that's frustrating, but you know, it's sometimes better. Like what would it have really been like if he wanted to sell those to someone else to force them to sell to you? You know, that's not gonna, that's not a
Oh, yeah.
good look
It'd be a
either. So
waste of time and money. It would
a lot
never,
of things to
never
consider.
stand up.
So, all right, the next question I wanted to ask, and then y'all class feel free to ask whatever you want, is what's your best or top or favorite ways to find deals? That's sort of where the class is right now.
Um, I've had the most success with two things actually. I would say my best deals have come from mail, direct mail, and and referrals.
How do you choose who to mail?
I typically will go, I'll typically send to high equity absentee. Um, I usually cast a wide net for high equity absentee. Um, if you're going to cast a wide net like that, you got to have a bigger marketing budget. If you wanted to narrow it down a little bit, I would probably stack onto that, something like, I might say, I might specify my equity. You know what I might say? I'd say length of ownership more than 10 years, something like that. I might slice it a little thinner because if you go high equity absentee in Wake County, you're going to get 30,000 properties or something goofy. You know what I mean? So, and you could do 30,000 mailers, but that will probably cost you 15 grand to do, a lot of money, put it that way. That I would say, so direct mail is one. And then, I would say the other deals came from, I had one deal last year that came from a property manager that I know, just he knows I buy, he knows I buy and I follow through, and kicked the deal over to me. It was off market, stellar deal. It was a package of 10 properties, 10 rental properties. And I sold, the ones that I didn't want, I sold them off. Made a profit and had zero cost basis in 4 doors that I kept. Basically like 4 houses for free that perform pretty, they're not high end rental properties, but they kick off a couple grand, 2,400 bucks a month, something like that. So letting people know that you buy properties and, move and shake with those circles is important.
Network. All right, you guys have any questions? Anything you want to ask or talk to Mike about?
Where are you pulling your lists from?
So I have PropStream, and I've pulled lists from PropStream before. I did some direct mail through a mailing company that would also sell me a list. I've recently become very disheartened with their list service, so I'm probably going to go back to PropStream. And a lot of times what I've done with PropStream, because a lot of times you pull a list from, I don't know if anyone uses PropStream, but it doesn't give you, it just gives you owner contact, owner address and name. So if you wanted to get phone and email, you're going to have it skip traced. There's a lot of good skip tracers that you can get stuff for pretty cheap on Fiverr. I don't know if you've ever used Fiverr, Fiverr. It's like a community for online, web-based services.
That's what I've been using, but I feel like I don't know, sometimes they don't like scrub the phone numbers very well. A lot of them don't work. Do you have like a particular person you use on there, or do you just
I don't know exactly how it works, but they all use some similar process or way that they pull the information. Typically, so like if you pull a list of 1,000 people and then you have it skip traced, you're going to get 4,000 numbers because it's going to say phone 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I would say, you're lucky if one of them, one of them will probably be good, but there's sometimes none of them will be good, but you pay for each record. You know what I mean? So I haven't personally figured out a way to get that narrowed down to only the good stuff. There might be something to work out where, the services that you can get on Fiverr are pretty inexpensive. You might be able to hire a VA through Fiverr to, you give them a call card, calling, a $50 prepaid call card or something like that. And you have them function or no, even better, you get them their own Google Voice account. You pay them $50 and they test each number. to see if like they can text it and see if it gets a reply or not. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
That might be an inexpensive way that doesn't take a ton of time to skinny it down.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, thanks.
I got I got a question.
Yeah.
As a wholesaler, once you assign the contract to whoever, a fix and flipper, how much contact do you have as the wholesaler between him and the person that you originally signed the contract from in the first place, between them and the time of closing?
How much contact do I have between myself and the seller or myself and the investor?
Both of them.
Talk to him throughout the whole process. I check in. I mean, most of these times, so like, let's just say you got a deal under contract on January 1st, and it's a killer deal. If you got a good deal, the deal is going to sell fast. And these are typically 2 to 3 week closings. So we're not talking about a 6-month time where you're managing a relationship. You're maybe talking about 30 days at the most, something like that. I would say a once a week check-in is reasonable.
Okay.
Update. Hey, just want to let you know what's going on, that type of thing.
Okay.
And so, Mike, is that like, so I just say that there are wholesalers who don't, stay in touch at all. They just wholesale and then
Yeah.
leave. So, I mean, I think that's a nice thing to do. Do you look at that more primarily as sort of building future relationships? Because you might have deals with either one of those again in the future?
Yeah, and I think that's panned out one time like that. So I would say it's certainly possible. But the real reason I do it is 2 reasons. One, I think your customers on both sides of the deal appreciate it. But I also think that, especially with the seller, you're going to know your seller. If they're skittish, you need to stay in contact with them. You don't want them to get cold feet and back out. You just put all this work in. You know what I mean? Or they say, I don't want to do it anymore. And I've had that happen, and what we were talking about before, you're not going to, most of the time, I would just never recommend holding anyone's feet to the fire. It's just better to walk
Oh,
away.
I might have misunderstood. I thought they were asking that question after closing. Like, I'm sorry. It's probably my.
Oh, I'm sorry. Were you asking that about post closing, Reginald?
Yeah, this was post-closing.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
actually
sorry.
before you close.
I thought, okay, you're asking before,
Wait.
you're asking how much contact before I close, right?
Before
Right.
he closes or after he closes?
Before he closes.
Okay, so you were right, Mike. I misunderstood. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. But post closing follow up is good too. I think you should do that. I typically will touch base one time after that as a follow up, and then I haven't done this yet, but when I was selling new construction, I kept a list of everyone. I sent them all a handwritten Christmas card every year.
Yeah, that's great.
I mean, it's what would a realtor do? A realtor does all this stuff. This is how you get referrals. You got to build a brand and have referrals.
Yeah. Chris Seabrooks, I don't know, maybe she's unable to unmute. She's asking if you send text messages.
Tried it. Got one deal off it one time, so that was kind of cool. It was a good deal. I am going to make a more concerted effort this year to do it. I've just been too slammed lately to make a focus on it, but hasn't been ultra successful for me yet. But people read text messages. There's like a 95 or 98% open rate on text, so I think it's a good approach.
I have a question. Given that you are a realtor, do you disclose that you are a realtor when you wholesale and when you're
That's a good question.
actually, interacting with sellers?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the way I treat it now is I keep my investment business. I don't do much traditional real estate. Like I'll list a property here and there, but I keep my investment business and my real estate business completely separate. And here's why. So I think it was maybe a year and a half ago, I had a realtor that didn't understand and that was, just not liking the wholesale thing, submit a complaint against me to the real estate commission. You don't want that to happen, whether you're a realtor or not. It's stressful. It caused me a lot of anxiety. And basically what they submitted the complaint about was I had a guy that was working for me at the time that would post the deal for me after I created the content, put it on like Facebook and on Craigslist. Well, apparently on Craigslist, there's a section, there's like a box you check where it says if you're a broker or not. And so he put my wholesale deal up and clicked that I was a broker. So the realtor that made the complaint against me said you were marketing property without a listing agreement. And it was a legitimate complaint actually, because it said I was a broker in the thing. I submitted all the documentation to the real estate commission and they dismissed it in 2 seconds. It was, I said, look, I told the buyers everything, like this is what I was doing. They dismissed it right away, but it wasn't a fun position to be in while I'm waiting for 4 months to hear back from them on whether I'm like going to jail or something, so not going to jail, but I didn't want to lose my license. I nobody likes to feel like they're in hot water. So now the way I handle it is if I'm going in as an investor, I don't disclose I'm a realtor because I'm acting and serving in a purely investment capacity. If I'm going to in as a realtor, or if I'm going to potentially transition to a realtor, I disclose I'm a realtor. I have them sign the RIA. I forget what it stands for, but there's a disclosure that says I'm a realtor and you got to sign this. And I transition at that point. And I spoke to a few other professionals in a similar situation, and that's also how they handle it. So that's how I've been treating it currently. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Like, I don't know a lot about real estate commission rules, but I somehow I always thought you always had to disclose you're a realtor no matter what. So that's incorrect, huh?
Yeah, and that was my impression too.
I always thought it's like you're a realtor, no matter what you're doing with people, you had to tell them that even if you weren't acting as a realtor. I could be wrong. I don't know. It's just for some reason I always thought that, but that sounds
Yeah,
like
the thing is I don't think there's a very, the National Association of Realtors doesn't have any recognition for wholesale, so I don't think there's a very clear cut way on how to treat it. The way I arrived at that decision was after I made had that complaint put against me. When I spoke to the attorney at the real estate commission, one of the things that I had to take away was you got to keep it separate. So that was one of my takeaways is I
Gotcha.
keep it completely separate now.
Gotcha.
So I mean, the truth is you can be sued for anything at any time. So
That is true,
True.
boy. Believe me, I know. You
Yeah.
guys have any other questions?
Yes, I have a question. My question is about the real estate agent that helps you find deals. Like, what is it? What's in it for the real estate agent?
so I don't have a specific real estate agent that helps me find deals, but you're asking in general, like if you had a realtor that was helping you find deals, is that what you mean?
Yes.
Well, if you were going to be fixing and flipping these properties, well, they'd earn a commission. I mean, if they bring you a deal, they would be earning a commission. Is that?
Okay. So when you were going through your slides, you mentioned something about an agent who brought you a deal.
Yes, it was a
You said
property manager. It was a property manager. Yep. And basically, you know what I did? I don't know if this is allowed or not, but I gave him a nice little gift card, put it that way, as a thank you. But he just gave it to me because the reason he gave me the referral is because he knew that I would buy the property and I'd follow through on it if I liked it, number one. And the other thing was I built a relationship with this person. So I had sent him a lot of business over the years. So, maybe he felt a little obligated. He wanted to do something nice for me. That's why he thought of
Okay.
me. And I gave him a little gift card for dinner.
Do you have any particular software you use to stay organized?
Yeah, I started using something called Trello. My brother turned me on to it. It's free. There's probably better stuff out there. Trello, TRELLO.com. It's like a real basic CRM. So between that and my Outlook, those are the two things I use.
Thanks.
What's your methodology for like determining the price you're going to get it under contract for, and then like the ARV? Do you kind of like let the seller steer you towards like what they think it's worth, and then you just kind of get it under contract for that, and then you go to the house and check it out after you get it under contract? Or
What I do is on the initial phone call, I'll ask them if they had a price in mind. Half of them will tell you a price. The other half will say, well, I just want to get an offer from you first. And what I do is I'll try and gather as much information as I can over the phone, do a little online research, and then I give them an offer range. And I say, if this range potentially works for you, next step is I'm going to come out and see you and see your house.
It's a good way. I like that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
this way you're not wasting anyone's time or your own, you know?
Yeah.
So Mike, real quick, on your offer to let someone spend a day with you, I don't know how you feel about this. And I'm not trying to put you on the spot, so you can totally say no. But we've started doing this little thing called pop-ups. We actually started in December. We're gonna do it like for a Christmas gift, where like Lionel Finley is gonna be at Starbucks in Apex on Wednesday morning, and the first 10 people to sign up can go have coffee and pick his brain. We actually had like 5 of those set up as a kind of Christmas gift, but then they all canceled because of COVID. What if, I mean, could you take more than one person if we did sort of like a pop-up, like you would set the parameters, how many you want? And would that work for what you had in mind?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, we'd be limited to 3 seats in my truck,
Or they could follow you?
or they could follow. Yeah, either, you know, I would maybe keep the group on the smaller side, but more than one would be okay.
Okay.
That'd be okay.
Well, I'll get in touch with you
If
about
we
it.
were, yeah, the one thing I'll tell you is that if we were, if it was more than one, I wouldn't take more than one on an appointment if I happened to have a seller appointment going on.
Right,
You
because
know,
that'd be awkward.
it'd be, yeah. Show up with the cavalry, but
Yeah.
but we'd have plenty of other things. Like if I had people come with me now, I'm going out in the field tomorrow. I'd probably be visiting maybe 3 different rehabs. I'd probably go talk to some contractors. So like there'd be value in it, you know.
All right, so I'll get in touch with you about that. I
Okay,
think we
that's
should
cool.
just make it one of those pop-ups. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, whatever. Either's fine, or however you want to do it. I'm good for either scenario.
You guys have anything else for Mike before we wrap it up? All right. Oh, Bianca's asking, how do you find your contractors for rehab?
I'm constantly interviewing contractors. I never stop because just when I think everything's going good, somebody is having baby mama drama or something. I don't know. Like it's
So,
unbelievable. Someone's truck broke down and now they're off the job for a week. So I'm constantly interviewing. It's referrals, and it's I've actually found a couple off Facebook, you know, that post there. Mainly those 2.
Judy's asking, do you ever drive for dollars?
When I first started, I did do that. Yeah. I don't remember if I got any deals off of it, but I felt productive for a little while. I think if you can stick to it, I personally, I hate driving. I live in Raleigh and I go to Rocky Mount all the time. I hate driving. If you got a comfortable ride and you're cool doing that and being in the car for a while, I think it could be a good method, because it's probably the way to get the best qualified leads, but it takes the most time.
Believe it or not, you want to talk about taking time? We have Nate here. He bicycles for dollars.
Love it. Cycles for cash.
Cycles for
Yeah.
cash.
That's better.
Yeah, sounds better. Okay, Mike, again, man, thank you so much. This was
Yeah.
awesome.
More questions?
Yes.
Just the last one?
Yep, go ahead, Judy.
Yeah, I see most of your listings, Michael, are in Rocky Mount. What
Yeah.
made you decide to do Rocky Mount? How do you do
Yeah, I was looking for, I mean, I started out my end goal for my end goal, but my underlying strategy is I want to have a larger rental portfolio. And I decided not to be in Wake and Durham and compete with 1 million people. And I also didn't like the returns as much, although you get better capital appreciation in theory in Wake and Durham, but I didn't like the cash flow returns. I was trying to replace actual income, so I wanted better cash flow. So I started out by looking in Rocky Mount, Wilson, Sanford, Fayetteville. Really like the Fayetteville market. I don't have anything in Fayetteville, but I would, because you get better returns, price points were lower. And my first deal that popped up, I bought a foreclosure in Rocky Mount. I bought a duplex there. So that's just kind of how I ended up, and I just kept cruising there.
Okay, this is super duper the last question from Chris Seabrooks. Do you ever send handwritten yellow, the yellow letter things.
Not the yellow letters, but I have sent handwritten ones. I just sent a handwritten letter to somebody yesterday that I've been trying to get in touch with for months. And they haven't responded to any of the, template stuff. So it took 5 minutes and handwrote a letter.
Can't hurt.
Uh-huh.
Okay, guys, remember Friday's accountability. We're going to ask what you've been doing to try to get a deal and see what you got. So that's going to be Friday. And before we go, Chris Seabrooks, are you doing check-in at Experienced?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you again, Mike.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you guys.
Awesome.
Lived up to the hype, and we really, really appreciate your time. I'll be in touch about that other thing.
Okay, cool. See you guys later.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone. Have a
Thank
great
you.
night. Bye.